of Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is indeed nice that we have seen the clock at midnight when I can't break the legal fiction while we're all here together, but it is time for adjournment proceedings. And I'm raising a question that I initially raised in April 20th, 2 days before Earth Day. And I had, on the previous occasion, witnessed an exchange between the Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona and the Minister for Energy, in which he was, the word I used is dismissive of the concerns of the most recent oil spill from Imperial Oil on the Cold Lake First Nations territory. And I asked on that occasion if there might be an interest in the part of the Minister for Energy and Natural Resources in amending his answer to reflect deep concern for the fact that it's not just one oil spill or one leaking tailings ponds in northern Alberta in the area of the oil sands. It's multiple. In fact, the tailings ponds system, Mr. Speaker, I'm having trouble hearing myself.
Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands is correct. There's too much noise in the chamber. So we'll wait for things to quiet down, and then I'll ask the honourable member to continue. I think it's more or less quiet enough at the moment. So I would ask the honourable member for Sandwich Gulf Islands to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know I have a total of 4 minutes, of which I think, if my clock is correct, I've used about 1 minute and 15 seconds. The difficulty we have, and the reason I raised this issue again, and I did ask in the House on April 20th for a better answer. Now, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment attempted to answer at that point, expressing concern that the government was concerned working closely with the Crown Indigenous Working Group along with affected communities, and that we'll find a long-term science-based solution. Now, the difficulty I have with that answer is that it's more than a decade after one of the most prominent scientists in Canada, the late Dr. David Schindler, appeared before the Fisheries Committee in this place and testified that his research had found the component parts, chemical contaminants that could only have come from the tailings ponds, not from any natural source in the environment, of contamination that violated the Fisheries Act, and yet the government had taken no action. The late Dr. David Schindler made it very clear to the Fisheries Committee that we'd already seen extensive contamination into the Athabasca River from what are called tailings ponds. But the containment, this is the difficulty. It isn't so much that Imperial Oil is experiencing leaks, as that containment system is a failure. It's basically a sieve. And what Imperial Oil has done in the past, when they initially didn't tell the community that they had what they could see was a breach of containment, what they did was pump the water out of the areas where there was extensive contamination that was recent and pumped it back into the same container that is a sieve and is leaking. So years before, I participated in environmental assessment hearings where they approved this particular oil sands mine going ahead with conditions to make sure that the river and the treaty rights and the rights holders in the area and the Indigenous people were actually protected. Their health needs to be protected. The environment where they live needs protected. The fish they eat need to be protected. And Dr. David Schindler warned the Environment Committee of this in public testimony more than a decade before these recent continuing leaks and breaches. So it would be easier for me to accept that the government is concerned, this government or previous governments, with the multiple breaches of the treaty rights of the rights holders throughout the area of the oil sands development. It'd be easier to believe that was going to happen if it had ever happened in the past. So I put it again to the government: when will they show concern for the environment in this area and the continual breaches and leaks?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of